Welcome, everyone. I think we're live. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's a privilege for you to spend, half an hour or so with me in your precious time on a Wednesday evening. So it's lovely to be here to talk to the better reading community. My name is Kylie Kaden. I'm an author of 4 novels, mother of 3 boys, and wife to one husband who's hopefully wrangling said boys as we speak tonight. Hopefully, you won't hear any traumatic sounds of devices being pulled from their fingers. So, it's lovely to be here, and I could see some people arriving here. Hi, Jane. Lovely to see you here. Thanks for coming along. I thought I would probably start just a little bit about my new novel. So that's One of Us, and it's a domestic noir book, which for those that aren't aware of that term, it's kind of more of a hoity-toity sort of term for psychological thrillers or chick lit with grit, if you like. But basically, it's a subgenre of the crime genre. So that's where it sits. And One of Us is set behind the tall hedges of an affluent gated community. And it starts with a scene of a rich white bloke bleeding out on his fancy floorboards in his mansion, while his beautiful wife looks on in horror at this monstrous event that's happened in her home. Now, at this point, the reader doesn't know which of the dodgy husbands has actually, had a threat to life in his own house, and whether the wife is traumatized because she actually did the act herself, or whether she just witnessed this crime take place. So at that point, the reader sort of doesn't know who or why. So we then delve into the lives of these gated community residents, into the web of relationships and secrets and lies that perhaps have gone through that little community. So that's the crux of my new novel. Thank you so much. I can see hello, Sharon and Carolyn, and there's Helen Edwards there. Thank you so much. You got an art copy of One of Us and loved it. So glad to hear that, Helen. And lovely to get those early comments. It's always great to hear from readers, because it's a pretty isolating occupation, as you realise, sitting on your own, thinking up and talking to your imaginary friends. So it's really lovely to actually hear comments from your readers. Hello, Wendy there. You're from Wagga. And thank you for joining us. There's Malvina and Iona. Thank you so much for coming along. And you bought the book yesterday. That's what we like to hear. So I really hope you enjoy it, and I'll try not to spoil any of the twists for you. There's nothing worse. And there's Nola Fry. Hi, Nola. Lovely of you to come along. I used to work with Nola, so that's lovely of her to join us. A question from Sharon there. Did you have to do much research for this book? I'm a little bit lazy and time poor, so that's part of the appeal for me for domestic noir, because it's ordinary people and it's the extraordinary in the ordinary, I suppose. So there was a little bit of research about certain themes that take place in the book, but because a lot of it is set in my stomping ground in suburbia with mothers and kids and all that jazz, I brought a lot of my experiences from life. There is an Olympic champion in there, so an ex-swimmer. So I did a little research on, I guess, life post-Olympics and the challenges that can have for retired athletes. A little bit of research into certain psychological aspects. I've got a psych degree in a previous life, it seems. It was about 20 years ago, but that's always interests me, having flawed characters and I guess I got into a little bit more of that sort of research for the novel. So thanks for your question there. Thank you, Raquel, for you're excited about the book. It's lovely to hear. And hello also to Wendy. is that Fleurieu Peninsula? I'm pretty bad with those locations, but it sounds like a lovely place. Thank you, Susan. Congratulations to me. And was it hard to come up with the title? This one wasn't actually. It was, as I mentioned, it's a gated community, so it's one of those little warrens of the elite with their gates and their hedges and their drones with their security. And I've always been fascinated with why someone would go to that level of security and what exactly they might be trying to hide. So the idea of One of Us, it's a bit of a claustrophobic kind of tone to it with everyone. All the houses are identical, a little bit like, I don't know if some of you have seen Edward Scissorhands, but that idea of every little, home being, a mirror image of the one next door. So basically when the crime happens, the neighbours all sort of form a scrum out on the footpath and, figure out, try and work out what's actually gone on. And, was it her? Was it him? I heard shouting the other night about something or other. So it basically has to be one of them, hence the title. So that just adds, I guess, to the mystery of who actually committed the crime in this book. So I'll tell you a little bit about my writing and my road to publishing. It was probably a quick path paved with luck, I think. I never really set out to be an author. I did psychology at uni, as I mentioned, with some criminology there. I then went into the public service and married, 3 kids, all of that jazz. When I was growing up in a, middle-class suburb, I guess, work to me didn't seem like it was fun. And being an author seemed way too cool and interesting and enjoyable to actually be deemed as something you get paid to do. So I never really imagined it would be something I could aspire to be. They say you can see what you can be, and I guess I didn't have any authors in my social circle at that point. So it wasn't until my mum took me along to a author event with Marianne Keyes, one of my favourite authors, when I was, a young adult, and I sort of sorted up to the book signing table and said, "Oh, I think I'm thinking of writing a book. What are your tips?" And she said in her Irish lilt, "Don't think, just write." And it did take me a little while to take that advice, but I did just that. And I think sometimes for, budding writers, you think, "Oh, I'll wait till I'll do a degree in it, or I'll, read that book on it, or I'll get my study painted, or my computer upgraded." There's always a reason, but you don't need any of that. You just need to have the ideas and the commitments and just start writing. So that's what I did when I was on maternity leave with my 3rd son. I found I just needed something in the day for me, a bit of a creative outlet to let my brain feel like I was in control of something. I guess as a young mum, you feel like you really don't have any control over these children and their habits and their schedules. So that was something I could control. So I just started writing one day, and I guess that I enjoyed it so much I wanted to keep doing it. But as a mum, you feel like, there's that sense of guilt if you're doing anything that's not directly related to your children. I felt like I needed to justify the time I was spending writing, because it takes a long time to write a book, I discovered. I can see some more comments there. Thank you so much. Louise saying the audiobook is fantastic. Brilliant story. Congratulations. Thank you so much, Louise. I'm a fan of Louise's books myself, so check out her work. And the audiobooks have certainly been a kind of a fantastic kind of cherry on top to have them all, in that format as well. I'm a bit of a audiobook fan myself. Being busy, I find that it sort of doesn't eat away on your time as much when you can listen to books. So that's something you can check out as well. So yeah, it's certainly interesting to see, someone, a voice actor, bringing those characters that you've learnt, and crafted yourself into life. So that's a great honour, I think, to have someone, breathe life into your characters. So yeah. So yes, getting back to my road to publishing, I'd written this novel, didn't know what to do with it, of course, didn't know if it was any good. You hear things about, 1% of books being, actually being published that are submitted in the slush pile. I didn't have an agent, had no clue what to do next. So I did what you all do when we don't have a clue. I Googled who the best and biggest publishers were at the time, and Random House, I think, was one of the top at the time, and I sent it away to the slush pile. I think it said, allow 6 to 9 months for a response, which I thought, wow, I can I can make a child in that time. That seems a lot of time to sweat on a decision. And I did sweat, and I would sit there and refresh on my keyboard to see if my email had been updated. Ironically, I did receive a response and it went to my junk mail, which it was just so happy that I actually didn't just delete it all and read it. And I was kind of in disbelief when I was offered a contract with Random House from their slush pile. Hello, Karen from New Zealand. What a lovely place. I've been there several times. Thank you so much for joining us from across the ditch. I really hope to get to New Zealand soon with borders opening. I feel like I haven't been anywhere but my kids' school and the local grocery shop for about 2 years. So I think it is really time for us all to get out and about and see the world again when and if we can. There's a question there from Wendy about flawed characters more easy or interesting to write. They're probably more complex. Interesting to write. I think they're certainly interesting to read about. And I think perhaps that's why we've had perhaps an increase in the domestic noir subgenre in popularity, because I think particularly women readers are looking for depth of characters and not having those sort of cliched characters of all, the goody and the baddie and so forth, because I mean, there is no normal people in my view, and we've all got imperfections, and even the worst serial killer could be very lovely to his mother. So I certainly have that light and shade in my characters. Even in the plot, I find there's actually quite a lot of humour in one of us. It sounds quite sinister, and there's certainly that darker aspect to it. However, I think like most people, especially in suburbia with mums and emotional dilemmas, one of our coping strategies is humour, or at least it is for me, and I think it's a pretty good one. And so there is that element of humour when things aren't perhaps going as you expected. So hi, Jane. Thank you so much for joining us. Jane's asking, are you a plotter or a pantser? That term pantser, it's a bit dodgy. I think we need to find a new one. It sounds like you're off, So I used to be a complete, pantser, if you like, or organic writer, I think some people term it. And I think as I've sort of tried to get a book out a year in recent years, I find it's more efficient to plot as much as I can. I don't think it's as fun, to be honest. And I just love having that freedom when you're a pantser to just see what happens. But I think I've learnt with each novel that the more I plan, the less I have to write, and the better it is when I do write it. So my fifth novel, which I've just finished and sent to Pantera, which should be out next April, it's called After August, another kind of twisted sort of tale, a domestic noir book. And I probably wrote that in a couple of months, but I'd planned it for probably 6 months, whereas my first couple of novels probably took 6 months to a year to write, and I'd rewrite it, and I'd change their occupation, then I'd change this, and I'd invent a child and remove a child, and, yeah, it was fun, but it does get a bit frustrating when you spend all morning doing a scene and then, throw it out. So it's certainly more efficient to plot in my experience. Yeah. So to answer your question, I'm pretty much a pantser, but I'm plotting as much as I can to go through. Um, so is there any other questions that I haven't followed there? If you don't ask the questions, I'm just going to rabbit on about myself a little more. So feel free to ask any burning questions, either about one of us or about writing in general or paths to publishing. So to get back to my road to publication, so my first book, Losing Kate, was actually published internationally and translated. So I was pretty stoked with that. My second book then came out a year later with Random House, which is called Missing You. That had one particular character in it, the old grandfather of the one of the children in the novel. I still get emails about that gentleman and him having quite a distinct personality, so that's something to look out for there. And my third novel, which was The Day the Lies Began, there we go here, which is from Pantera Press. I think it came out just before the world went a little bit off the rails with the pandemic in 2019. And it's another, set in a coastal town, which I've had lots of emails of people asking where it is. But unfortunately, it's all in my brain and made up, so couldn't tell them about that one. But it actually, The Day the Lies Began, looks at a pretty big emotional moral dilemma, and it looks at, I guess the tagline of something like sometimes doing wrong can feel completely right, and is there ever a situation where violence and even murder is actually understandable and even justified, or whether there's never an excuse for such monstrous acts. So that's what I love about domestic noir. It really is the internal sort of crime, whereas crime itself as a genre is often about money or power or spies and cops and robbers. Domestic noir is really about the internal monologue and the motivations of the characters to do what they feel they have to do, and instead of, I guess, for external goals. So that's what I love about the genre. It also, I feel, mixes the characters. Like, I'm very character driven, so it's all about getting those flawed characters, finding, I guess, what would really put them in a situation of conflict, and then, of course, I put them through hell and do that to them. So I guess that's where the knowledge of the psych background probably informs my characters, because I think of what kind of background and experience and personality traits would lead someone to react a certain way to a situation. So yeah, domestic noir has that character side, but then I really feel like I need a good plot. While literary fiction, I do read widely, and there's some absolutely beautiful literary books out there. I'm usually just sort of hanging for someone to die or some sort of major plot event. I do need those hooks to keep me reading, even though I do really admire and appreciate the beautiful poetic prose that can be in those sorts of stories. It also depends, I guess, on your mood and what you're after at the time. Sorry, I'm ignoring your questions down here. Wendy's asking, do you have input with the covers of your books? And hello, Melissa, I'll get to your question in a moment. So Wendy, they certainly do consult. They've all been lovely to work with, and we definitely look at the themes and the tone of the books. There's certainly a lot in the marketing, and that's something that's foreign to me. I'm certainly not into that. I don't have that expertise. So I think when you decide to go with a publisher and not self-publish, as often many brilliant authors do, I'm happy to surrender that creative process over to the publisher. And I think they've done an awesome job with my novels. They always sort of seem to fit the tone and the mood of the stories. We do kind of consult a little, and I send pictures and ideas, but generally they come up with stuff, and it may not be exactly what I've thought in my brain. I think with this one I had, because the tall hedges, the whole estate is sort of enveloped with this hedge, which is quite it's quite central to the book, and that aspect of control, and how the residents kind of manage that aspect of control. And the hedge is so pristine and finely groomed and hedged. So I kind of thought that I'd have this book with this huge wire gates with the hedge coming through was probably what was in my mind. And as you see there's some houses, and there's some leafy green trees, but yeah, it certainly has the right tone of that foreboding sort of sky coming through into the supposedly perfect little estate. Sorry, where was I up to, Melissa? Are all my novels the same genre? And how did you know that was the genre you wanted to write? Thanks for your question, Melissa. I think they've actually gotten a little darker as I've gone through, which I'm not sure what that says about my mental health, or maybe it's just an appetite for more plot-based or bigger conflicts. My first novel, Losing Kate, you can see that one there. It just looks a little bit different in tone, does it? This beautiful teenage girl. She actually goes missing on a beach during a schoolies camping trip, and her two best friends that were there at the time never worked out what happened and how she died. She washed up, at a later stage. So, and they meet later in life and sort of unpack what happened to their friend Kate at that time. It's very much a romance. It certainly has those hooks, but it's pretty much the story of Frankie and Jack, who were her friends in high school. So yeah, more romance, less romance as I went along. I'm not sure how that happened. I started off as a Romance Writers of Australia, member, and they were a lovely, beautiful, social, supportive group to sort of introduced me to the industry. I met some great beta readers through there. Lily Malone was one of, and still is, one of my, friends, writer friends and beta readers, which is the readers we send what we call our dirty drafts that, we probably don't want the world to see, but just to get some early feedback. But I have certainly, I think I found my niche with I think it sort of offers the best of both worlds with domestic noir, because it has that compelling plot, but it also is character based, which is what I love. People that love more romance, straight romance, and lots of happy, feel good stuff will probably find some of my books a little bit more confronting, whereas people that like full on gory crime novels would probably find perhaps they're a little bit too slow paced for them. So I guess it's about getting the right book for the reader that you are, and the mood that you're in at the time. Where are we up to? I've answered Melissa. So we've got Melissa Martin here. Thanks for joining us. Do you have a goal to write every day and reach a certain amount of words? I do, when I've got a deadline. This last one was due in January, and I had done about 10,000 in November, so I really needed to have my butt on the seat and the words flowing out. So yeah, I think I think it was only 5,000 a week was that time. But generally I tend to write in seasons. I kind of sit there and do it every moment of my life for a couple of months, and then I leave it in the drawer and come back with fresh eyes. So a bit sporadic in the way I approach my books. Thank you, Frances, for your question. What did you read as a child? Did you write stories as a child? I was the kid that would sit there at, all through morning tea and just write away some rubbish with, 20 pages of something when we were asked to have free writing time before the break. So I was that indoor nerdy girl that, just used to babble on with stuff. Yes, I definitely wrote. I think I tried to write a novel for Dolly Fiction or something when I was about 13 that I think I got out the other day, which I wrote on my brother's Commodore 64, with that printer paper with the little dots down the side from like way, I'm showing my age now. It was very, very, melodramatic, but, that's how I started. So I'll quickly just get to the last one and then we might have to finish up. The time's just flown and I've loved chatting to you all. Do feel free to, touch base on Facebook or Instagram if I haven't got to your question. So thank you, Noel. You've said you enjoyed the last book and looking forward to this one. I really appreciate it. And Susan is asking, do the editors change much with the drafts? I'm not sure if you mean the editors or the actual edits itself. I'll answer both if you like. My first novel, I think I just had to distill down the words a little bit. I often overwrite. I used to overwrite. Now I feel like I underwrite the skeleton of it and then just pad out the bits that are important. I've been lucky to have Lex Hurst for a couple of my books across from Penguin Random House to Pantera. She's a awesome book midwife, if you like. So, yes. So, yeah, if I haven't answered all your questions, I'm really sorry, and feel free to drop me a line. And I really appreciate Better Reading's opportunity to chat with you all. For those in ISO, I'm sure there's a couple of you probably sitting at home and not feeling too great, so I wish you all the best, and thank you so much for coming along. I might leave that and enjoy your evening, and I hope to see you, meet you all in real life one day soon. Thank you.